After the 2008 economy collapse, I had to pick up the pieces and put it all together again. This mountain had been waiting for me for many years. There I stood at the foot of an enormous hill, my Mount Rushmore of problems that I created. All of the heads of my principal issues staring at me: debt, bad credit, fatherhood, and homelessness. After losing all of my homes, I had to move back in with my dad at 38. He was in the mid stages of bone cancer coupled with congestive heart failure. To top it all off, he was an alcoholic with a bad case of drinker-induced resentment. You see, we weren't on the best of terms because he felt that I sided with my mom during their legal separation years earlier. That wasn't the case at all. I was protecting my mom from his physical attacks due to his drug and alcohol abuse. At that time, I moved her into my house, but never did I get involved in the issues behind their problems other than the obvious ones. As a man, I stood firmly on the principles that he taught me: never hit a woman and protect my mother in his absence. Well, that's what I did. He was not himself. He was a man on drugs. Our last violent encounter happened around 2001. He showed up at my house one afternoon. He double parked his Cadillac in the street and was talking shit to me from the curb. He was urging me to come out so he could put hands on me or even kill me. He always kept a chrome-plated .32 underneath his car seat, but on this afternoon, he made sure I saw it in his front pocket. I urged him to go home. I shut the door, all the while praying that I didn't have to use my gun. He shouted obscenities, and then he sped off. Now, moving back home was painful, but necessary. I showed up at my dad's in the fall of 2008, unannounced with my truck and trailer. It was a cold welcome, but a welcome nonetheless. He said I could sleep in the back bedroom, but I couldn't use the closet because his clothes were in there, which meant I'd have to live out of my boxes in the bedroom. No worries, I have a roof over my head. He asked me about my plan. I explained that I was working on it. My son was in middle school at this time, so I poured into him as much as I could. I picked him up from school each day, helped him with his homework, and played ball with him after school. I tried my best to stay out of my dad's look. It was difficult because I noticed the side eye and I heard the murmuring under his breath. I prayed and prayed hard for God to provide me with a clear focus to my next path in life. I felt like I was underwater gasping for air. Then one day, after having dinner with my son, I was driving him to his mom's house and he asked me if he could live with me. I remember telling him that I would talk to his mom about the move. As I drove home, I rerouted to a longer way home and I ended up near the Portland airport, where I pulled over and cried out to God, "Please help me. Please, God." I slammed my fist against the steering wheel, shouting to God. No words were coming out. At that moment, through my tears, I recalled the poem, Footprints in the Sand. The last verse in particular, which reads, "He whispered, 'My precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Even during your trials and testings, when you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you.'" I can't explain the unexplainable, but it was after this moment when I submitted my will to God's will. In the years to follow, I started a successful small business which I had for more than 10 years. My son came to live with me as well as my daughter. I filed and completed my bankruptcy and began to focus on rebuilding my finances. My dad died in 2013. Our relationship was not repaired, but it was better. During his final days, he called me into his room and told me to take care of my mom. He instructed me to move her from the non-assisted senior apartment where she resided back into the house where they purchased together 30 years earlier. He told me to make the necessary repairs to the home to make her comfortable. Not only did I make the repairs, I built a brand new house behind the main house to give my mom a fresh start. But after I finished, she declined to move in, saying that she preferred the comfort of her main house. We now rent out the new house, which pays mostly all of her living expenses. When God renewed my focus, I felt a power like never before. Each day I ask for clarity of mind, which leads to focus and to living a life with power.